found yourself extremely frustrated by people disrespecting your boundaries, or maybe even continuously having your children or other people in your community, family, and friends disobey your requests? Perhaps you've gone through life feeling like your truth or your voice is not heard or does not matter. And maybe even in very early childhood, you were quieted for your authenticity. You were not allowed to basically have choices in your life. If this resonates for you, I have come through a huge breakthrough in my personal healing journey. If this is your first time here, welcome. My name is Angela. I'm an intuitive healer, channel, energy reader, and angel healing practitioner. I'm here as an ascension guide, assisting all of humanity to awaken us to live balanced, purposeful, fulfilled lives by sharing my personal experiences. Now, I had gone through a huge trigger moment here recently where I feel like my lack of personal boundaries is really starting to affect my peace. And this has been a lingering energy that has been going on in my life for some time, but it has come up in layers and layers and layers. Now, my sons, I'm dealing with very young children here, okay, continue to disobey and disregard the boundaries that I place, okay? I've learned to stay patient and calm and peaceful, and I'm constantly questioning, why is this a continuing cycle in my life, okay? I've kind of like worked through and healed a lot of the parts of my inner child that didn't feel heard, right? Where I was quieted at a young age, but I was still dealing with this unconsciously because I did not know how to properly place boundaries in my life, because as a child, boundaries were thrown out the window. I did not have many choices. I did not have my own choices in my life. My voice, my truth, it did not matter. It was my way or the highway type of mentality as I grew up. Okay, even down to the way the school systems here, we are societally programmed to obey. Okay, so now if you are a fellow parent, you may actually get triggered when your child disobeys. Okay, this comes back to our inner child here, really focusing us on the aspect, on the deep psyche, the unconscious programming here of where now we are in a place in our life where we feel that if we place a healthy boundary, where we feel if we do not obey, right, that we are in this constant juggling of this burden of, are we going to be abandoned? Am I going to disappoint somebody here, right? By placing healthy boundaries, by choosing to disobey, right? And now I feel like I get frustrated with my sons here because they are young children, and I try to explain to them, I'm not here to control you. I'm here to guide you, right? I'm trying to guide my children. I'm not trying to tell them what to do, but I'm still triggered when they constantly, I tell them one thing and they do the opposite, or just totally, it just goes out the window and they're off in their own little world. Again, I'm dealing with young children. I'm very, very patient here, but I got to the root problem here today is because I'm triggered by their disobeying, because that was projected onto me in very early childhood, that if I disobeyed, I was conditioned in love, right, to obey. That turned me into a major people pleaser. I have no sense of boundaries, and because I do not know what a boundary is for my personal happiness, it continues to get broken down and disrespected by all the people that I encounter. Okay, so I feel like this is a very, very powerful, transformative message for many people to truly understand that it is the deep psyche where we don't want to hurt others, where we've been programmed to obey. So then when we are disobeyed, we are triggered, right? Because our little inner child got quieted, right? Our inner child got placed in this space where we're not good enough, and that we don't matter compared to the adults or the figures in our life of authority that really placed us in this like space where if we want love, if we want attention, then we have to do it by their means, okay? And this really, really disrupts our own authenticity. It really throws us off of the path of our most destined life, because when we are separated from our inner child here, beautiful souls, it really, really hinders the way that we are able to reflect our true selves in the world. So if this resonates with you, please know that if you are able and willing to do the healing work, go back into childhood, okay? Did you have parents, or were you in situations a lot where you were not able to voice yourself, your truth? And if you did, what happened, right? Were you abandoned or rejected for that truth? Okay, so then you learned to obey, to maybe stay quiet, to maybe suppress yourself, your emotions, right? And now in adulthood, okay, we're all like walking broken little babies because our inner child has really been holding on to a lot of pain and trauma, and we're all trying to figure out a way to create these healthy boundaries, right? And if we do not understand why boundaries did not exist for us, again, starting in childhood, we will always continue to have that wound and feel like there's a major block to people respecting us, to people hearing us, to people choosing that, to know that what we have to say and how we move about our life is important. Another aspect here is just throw other people's opinions straight out the window, okay? Everyone is living their own life. Everyone has their own perception here. And if we're going to sit back and juggle a burden of setting a healthy boundary based on the opinion or the feelings of another person, now this is not getting selfish. This is about choosing ourselves here, beautiful souls, and saying, you know what? If I have a boundary up because it makes me happy and it keeps me at peace, if it affects you in a negative way, that is that person's situation to work out on their own. That's their own inner child. That's their own triggers. That's their own programming that they need to work through. It is not up to us, beautiful souls, to sit here and baby and pet everybody in the world and then lose ourselves because of it, okay? Now, I feel like I might have deviated a little bit on this subject, but more or less, it's time to let go of feeling like we will disappoint other people when we're choosing ourselves. That is the biggest misconception in this world here to date, that makes us all feel like we're not good enough, that we're going to be abandoned, that we're going to be rejected by people just because we want to be respected. And now this also goes back in reflection, right? So if we are going to stay and hold on to this pain and this lingering trauma within our inner child, it is what we are reflecting into the world. It will always be reflected back to us. As above, so below, as within, so without, okay? When you break down these types of wounds, these deep psyche things where maybe you feel like you are constantly disrespected, you have to reflect that back to yourself. Where are you disrespecting yourself, right? Where were you taught in whatever time in your life that disrespect was okay, right? It all comes back to us here, beautiful souls. And I really hope and know that this message is going to help people, because it's really time for us to know that healthy boundaries are good. And it's okay for you to choose you, and that you are enough just as you are. And if anybody is going to backlash on you or reject you or abandon you for your boundary, that's because they weren't meant to be there in the first place, okay? Don't allow yourself to feel that we are supposed to base our happiness on other people and their opinions and their judgments. Again, they're living their own life based off of their perception within their own trauma. And it's not up to us to try to fit everybody's mold. And people pleasing is a huge thing in society here, because we don't want to, stir the pot. But then all we're doing is we're hurting ourselves, and we're staying disconnected from ourselves. And we ourselves are staying in misery and triggering and feeling like we're not enough, because on the inside, that's how we feel. So know that you are, and you do not have to juggle other people's problems and traumas. You are allowed to set healthy boundaries. And when you set the intention that you respect yourself and your boundaries are to be respected, you see how that's going to reflect back out in your reality. Love and light.